I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. I know a lot of you out there have been waiting and asking for this one, so I'm happy to announce my guest today is William Ramsey. William, thanks for coming on.
Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you do if you'd like.
Well, I was kind of like an old lawyer. You know, I was a lawyer at one point. I worked in D.C. and kind of like tied into interesting things today. I briefly worked on the case of Vince Foster. So I'd seen political assassinations. This is 1996 or something, 95. 30 years ago, it's hard to believe. But I was always it was when my time in Washington where I really began to distrust the corporate media. So I did a lot of researching and writing on my own and really kind of was always in listening to the alternate media from probably a long time ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of different sources. A lot of those types of people. I was like a listener to Visigoth. He was kind of one of the earlier podcasters who I kind of do a lot of what he does now. He's unfortunately passed away in 2025. And then obviously like Bill Cooper, all that other kind of stuff.
I've got a listener, shout out to Bart. He has been asking for you to come on the show, actually. He actually sent me your email too, but he's been sending me episodes with you and Visigoth. So at this point, I've heard my share of Visigoth. It's really good stuff.
I manage his archive. He has about 700 or 800 shows at William Ramsey Investigates. You can look up or Google the Visigoth archives. There's 6 sections. I just reposted like 4 of the shows on my podcast today. His wife, his widow, gave me permission to kind of curate them. Really, I'm uploading them, equalizing them. The audio's old. Some there's songs that probably shouldn't be there maybe. So I'm cleaning them up so that they'll be around hopefully for a whole nother generation, really. And it shows kind of like the alternate media did not just spring out of nothing, whole air. It kind of comes out of the people. And one of the interesting thing is so many of his guests are like people that are kind of legends now. Jim Mars and some of these other JFK researchers. Gilbert, just so many other people that are on there, stories about, cryptids and things like that. Like he was really doing a lot of different stuff back at those times. And, that his thing is the grassy knoll. It's basically a story about the JFK assassination or a reference to the JFK assassination.
Yeah.
So parapolitics, he was a parapolitician at the time without really having that kind of, that term affixed to his name.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's important to remember that a lot of you guys paved the way for the alternative media space. Some of us came in, in 2020, which, what was that really about, right? Was that, it's times like these, we were talking about Charlie Kirk earlier, and it's times like these where I reflect back on the psyops of recent years and, look at 2020. I'm like, what was that all about? Was that a failed attempt at a takeover? Was it rolled out too soon? Was it a test run for 2030? Time will tell, right? But my point, I guess, more or less is that people are paying attention now more than ever. The devil's in the details, and people are now combing through those details. It's not just lone wolf Bill Coopers and, and everybody else as well, but there's a lot more people. I mean, my Instagram feed, of course, I try to stay off of there as much as possible, but my Instagram feed is nothing but conspiracy now. It's like Charlie Kirk this is the first time I can remember where conspiracy theorists outnumbered the normies.
Yeah, it's not really an accurate term. It's some kind of legacy term is that term. That's why I don't use it, because it's actually just independent researchers and things like that. But I've been around, the technology has changed. A lot of like his recordings were done over the phone. So there was no streaming like this or the software. I mean, you had to kind of go back through different things. Now the StreamYard is kind of like, or Zoom. But back then, you couldn't do this. So I think the technology has really facilitated this stuff. And even outside of the censorship, it's really been this technology has really increased and shown what a clown show the corporate media has always been. It's just populated by idiots and losers and garbage people. And even the TV is going to just die and basically die on the vine because I don't know anybody smart who watches TV anymore. So you're seeing a change, and people want that. They don't want to be talked to or be zapped with 20 minutes of corporate ads every hour. You probably get a lot of ads, but still, it's not the same ones. And they're just the propaganda. So, like, the TV is really a mind control, low level hypnotizing device. And it's really dangerous, actually, to sit in front of a TV. A lot of people don't know that because you're passively doing this. A lot of the researching thing is back and forth. It's much better. So things have changed. I think people have kind of adapted to these new changes very well. And then that's really the power of the marketplace, is really the marketplace of ideas, is people who are actually doing the work, that have integrity or trying to tell somebody, are going to create and generate an audience, and people who aren't are trying to just kind of, titillate people. I mean, there's a place for comedy or anything else like that, but I mean, I think the truth will out. People like the truth. So that's kind of, I think, what I like about this new media. It's
Yeah.
really not alternate anymore. I don't even know if it's alternate anymore.
I know I struggle with the terms too. It's like, what do I actually call this whole thing? It's like the conspiracy theorist term and the all. I struggle with the terms. I kind of stick with them for now because it gets the point across. But yeah, I'm with you on that. It's exciting. It's an exciting space to be a part of. People are hungry for the truth right now, and they want authenticity. And I think that's what, I don't know. I get a lot of emails, and people seem to comment on that. They like the format. They like it when you go over an hour and you go into that 2 hour mark, because there's you the longer these shows go on for, the less there is to hide. If you had something to hide, right? So of course I come in here and I'm just like, I'm an open book. Like, I'm just going to be myself here as I am off camera. But you can't keep that facade up for very long if you have one for 2 hours, And these topics too, like the topics that are pressing. I mean, wow, like just this whole thing that we're seeing right now out there in the media. You mentioned it before the show, like they seem to like that lone gunman aesthetic, you know.
It goes all the way back. I mean, it really started in the 60s. It's the same playbook. They're using the same playbook from the 60s. That's why, you wanted to talk about Manchurian Candidate or Catcher in the Rye.
Hmm.
They're not that inventive. They have a preset agenda, a preset kind of blueprint, and they carried it out and they put it on the public. The reason is the public has believed it, and I don't think that the public's primed for a lot of stuff now. They're different. They're different informed, and so when Trump kind of goes, "There's no Epstein files," or "We're fully transparent," they know he's lying.
Yes.
They know
Yes.
the Epstein stuff is real and that there is, and that means that we know that Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, is a liar too. I can fairly call him a liar too. He says there was no victims of Epstein. It's complete hogwash because there's been $800 million in payouts. You can look at Ryan Dawson's stuff. I mean, that's kind of his specialty, is Epstein. And like, there's a list of hundreds of millions of dollars. Where are those going? They're going to people who weren't victims. Give me a break. He's deliberately lying. So that's where
Yeah.
we're at.
What's
Those are our
the
political leaders.
Yeah, and then they have these tremendous gaffes. Like, what he's up there saying, "I'll see you in Valhalla." What is he
Doesn't
talking
make
about?
sense. Who knows? These aren't the best and the brightest. Trump has a bunch of guys around him who will do what he says. That's really because last time in his last administration, he had a bunch of people who played all kinds of games with him. So, I mean, he chose loyalty over, I think, intelligence and skill. So, that's the
Yeah.
way it is. But he won. But yeah,
And
like,
he picked a lot of like people that that were eyed by the libertarians, or some of us who don't claim a party anymore. There was a handful of people that we were like, oh, they're kind of like the good politicians, like Tulsi Gabbard or RFK when he's talking about vaccines. It's like there's this middle space there between the parties of this growing group of people who seem to want a third party. I'm one of them. And then we got kind of turned on to some of these other personalities who seem to walk that line as well. And Trump seemed to go out and pick those people. I think it was strategic.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're
Mhm.
right. I mean, I think that I don't know if any other politician's been put through the ringer as much as he's been. Like they arrested him and tried to sue him and take his property. So it was pretty rough.
Yeah,
He didn't deserve it for whatever his shortcomings are. I think he's obviously in the Epstein files. The new stuff that came out, the birthday thing book about Epstein was from 2003. He names Trump as one of his best friends, and they're always trying to push Trump's like friendship with Epstein back to the 90s or 80s, but he's still one of his best friends 20 years ago.
I would guess there's a couple things in those files, two or three major things. That's why they just cannot, or they feel like they cannot release them. And I do feel like there's more to the Trump Epstein relationship. I
Oh yeah, I
don't I
think
don't
so.
know that he was involved with, underage minors and all that, but they they were talking about something in all that old footage. They knew each other. They were talking about something. There was a
Yeah,
relationship.
there's a relationship there. I mean, there's pictures of Epstein at Mar-a-Lago, and
Right.
Epstein has networked with very dark, very intel people. I mean,
Yeah.
Ehud Barak and his Ghislaine's dad is like a full-on Mossad superhero, really. I mean, the guy's amazing. I don't think he's good or bad, but like Robert Maxwell, his real name is it's a Western name he adopted. He's actually had like three personas or something like that, but his real name was Abraham Souls or something like that. I can't
Oh,
remember
it's
what it
just
was.
rather
Yeah, he
Jewish.
has a very totally Jewish last name. Like
Yeah.
he survived World War II. Like this guy, like his whole family was wiped out. Like it
Hmm.
was very dark. Like dark stuff happened to him.
That sounds like intelligence to me. Sounds like a number one intelligence personality.
Oh, the thing is that he was super smart intel kind of guy where he had relationships with MI6, the KGB, and the CIA. So he's like playing the intel game, super spy stuff. I think there's that. That's one of the book. Martin Dillon is like the death of a super spy. He was really a super spy, brilliant
Hmm.
guy, real piece of real jerk, and impersonally a jerk. He like looted a pension fund for hundreds of like millions of quid or what is it? The British coin or whatever. Like he just
Hmm.
did horrible stuff. But he was involved in exporting Jewish people from Russia to Israel. So that was kind of like facilitating the return of the Jews. He also ran a publishing house, and the MI6 said they gave him the money to start Pergamon Press. So he's kind of controlling a lot of scientific publications and keeping an eye on them too. Like all these scientific publications are coming across his desk, and like legions, like thousands and thousands and thousands of stuff. Back when that was more important, and then he was involved in the nuclear program affair. I forgot the name of the guy, but like he was involved in getting him arrested. He was kind of a Jewish whistleblower against what they were doing in the Negev desert, which
Hmm.
still isn't acknowledged. So he
Yeah.
was involved in all kinds of stuff. And his
Yeah.
daughter is like a super. Jeffrey Epstein is just the front. He's not that smart. You can just see his birthday book. He's resolutely middle class or lower middle class. He's from that background. His buddies are driving taxis and stuff. It's
Well,
Ghislaine who's the smart one. Yeah, she went to
yeah. I could see that Maxwell family bringing Epstein into the whole Mossad milieu in the first place. And like you something I thought about something when you're talking there. You're talking about how Maxwell was the super spy, and I agree with that. And he's even a triple agent, right? He's
Oh, he's definitely a quadruple agent. He's
quadruple
definitely a
agent.
quadruple agent.
Well,
Yeah.
I thought about Oswald when you said that, because how did Oswald had all these Russian ties, and how was he going back and forth in the Soviet Union anyway? Like he was clearly, I would say Oswald was at least a double agent, right? And I think
He was involved in different things at a very low level. He was way over his head. But I
okay.
think he was a CIA agent and involved in the FBI. The Cuba thing, if he infiltrated that was a COINTELPRO, co-intelligent program. but it was run by the FBI. It was run by Hoover. So he's bouncing in between CIA and FBI programs, like, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like his 201 file, according to like one of the best people who knows the JFK assassination, just giving talks this year in Congress is Jefferson Morley, and he focuses in and emphasizes that James Jesus Angleton had the 201 file on Oswald before November 22nd, 1963. So there are what counterintelligence is the guy at the CIA is trying to stop infiltration from enemy agents. At that time it was Russia, right? So he's got this thing on Oswald. They let Oswald back in the country. The
Mm-hmm.
book to be read about Maxwell is Robert Maxwell, Israel Super Spy: The Life
Mm.
and Murder of a Media Mogul.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the more I look into this sort of thing and the JFK assassination with the likes of Oswald and Guthrie and all those, um, Guy Bannister, I should say, it's like, yeah, were they low level? Were they in super deep? I don't know, like the status, but they seem to have these cross intelligence agency um connections, like you mentioned
You
there.
can, it's in, if you watch Oliver Stone's JFK, I always use these kind of films as backdrops. People watch the films and they know what's going on. They don't really read as much anymore. But the intro to that film is basically Bannister, an ex FBI guy who's all over Intel, his secret society stuff. And that's what he was like worried about this guy, Martin. They were really, what Garrison was trying to do is establish a personal relationship and or nexus between Bannister, Ferry, Shaw, and Oswald. I think he did it. And so there were sightings of all this stuff. Oswald going into Bannister's office, coming back out, people seeing Oswald with a bunch of anti-Castro Cubans and just all this stuff. Like it's all there in the film. It's really interesting too, because I think it's interesting to see how good of an understanding um, Stone had at the time. But there's a lot of people in that film who were involved in the JFK investigation who played like partial figures. There's this guy Willem Oltmans, who was a European journalist. He's featured in there. He plays de Mohrenschildt, and then Garrison plays one of the judges, so he's in there. So I think a lot of these. I think Robert Grudin is another known JFK researcher who is in the court scenes. So it's almost like Oliver. So it's not portrayed to the public as how important these guys are. And William Oltmans, according to a book, Oltmans was a gay dude who was like a lover of de Mohrenschildt, who was bisexual. But it's there for like the JFK, you know, nerd community. Like
Yeah.
it's such an important event. That's
Well,
why people are so involved, obsessed with it, and the enormity of the lie that's there. But yeah.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure. The enormity of the lie. Love that terminology there. That's very applicable. But what do you think about that? Like, we'll get into this Manchurian Candidate here soon because I mean I think we're kind of talking about that anyway in so many terms. But like, what do you think about the Oliver Stone film? Is that something to be taken at face value?
Think so. I think it's an introduction.
Mm,
People could criticize it like they're leaving out this fact or it's not emphasizing this, but I don't think that's his gist. I think his gist was to counteract the narrative that Oswald was a lone nut and that there was a larger, broader conspiracy, and this is why. And that's why they had the very kind of end speech with Costner. It's a rousing speech. He looks at the audience. They're just trying to portray the important. JFK is still vitally important. It's so important. The same issues that are happening in the 60s are now.
it's that playbook you mentioned.
It's no, it's broader than that. It's all the geopolitical things. It's the
Hmm.
decision between war and peace. It's who's your government? Are you going to be run by jackals? And we're at the brink of nuclear. We're past like already past the Cuban Missile Crisis right now. Like the United States is just for people who don't understand. There was this big event called World War II, and the Russian and the Nazis invaded Russia. They actually went in and killed 25 million people. Ferocious war. We talk about the Western Front. The Eastern Front was warfare. Only maybe the Mongols is close enough, like the most savage stuff imaginable. But that happened on June 22nd, 1941. And now the US empire is actually in the role of the Nazis. We are the bad guys. We invaded Ukraine and took it over, and we invaded Russia. We're the driving force. Your tax dollars, my tax dollars, the resort. This is all proven. The resources of the United States with $300 billion that could have been spent on healthcare, education, roads, is basically laundered by jackals too. Like that's how stupid the American people are. They're so stupid. Like they used to tolerate all this. We are the Nazis. We're the core thing of all this invasion that's going on into Russia and bringing us to the brink of nuclear war. We're past the Cuban Missile Crisis. JFK is everything. All the stuff he talked about, all the speeches he gave about peace, all of what he was trying to do to fight against the generals and the military industrial complex and the famous warning of Eisenhower in 1959, it's all relevant today because your tax dollars are going to come back and you don't even know. Like the American people are so stupid. They don't know the blowback that's going to happen after this invasion of Kursk and there's 1.8 million people dead. They don't give a crap. You don't even hear them talk about it. Like it's not even in their brain. That's how bad the mind control is, and that's how stupid the American people are. Excuse my French, but like literally your average conversation with the average American talking to an idiot. They don't understand all these things. That's why JFK is important. The lone nut, this Kirk situation. Are you going to be run by jackals? Or are you going to run people who want to be righteous and have peace and a civilization? And it's an open question. Now, the question is no, because people haven't really done anything. So I would say that the karmic consequences for the Nazis and the German people were extraordinary. They were invaded, partitioned. There's ferocious wars. People were put in concentration camps. So the consequences of the U.S.'s involvement in the war against Russia, we don't know, but it's going to be a reverberate tectonic plate shift. Already, these other countries have decided we're the bad guys, which we are. We're the bad guys, and they're going to unite together. So Russia, China, India, Brazil, the BRICS nations, and they're going to move against a way. So this quality of life that we've lived, because everybody can use the U.S. dollar, it's slowly gonna like pull back from the surface. So JFK is everything. It's not just the movie. It's not just the assassination. It's all of the issues that went into what was surrounding JFK and led to his death. And after that, after he died, there was a massive war. There was a war in Southeast Asia. It wasn't just Vietnam. We called it the Vietnam War. 2 million people died because the jackals took power, took your tax dollars, took your people. They all went crazy, 50,000 dead. And the consequences were disastrous. So people need to keep it in their constant awareness. That's why you can't really watch TV, is because it's slop and it's just garbage for the stupid people. Really, that's all it is.
Yeah, and you're talking about wars and the correlation with the shootings, and from where I'm sitting and from where I'm at with the research I've done, these shootings seem to be deep state ops. They seem to contract them out to keep the blood off their hands. And I imagine some of that goes back to policy shifts. They see the country's going one way and they want to redirect and implement policy. And they have a big event, a public shooting like the ones we've been seeing. And like we said earlier, they seem to really like that lone gunman aesthetic. Seems to be the preference. And I would argue this is all interlinked with the wars. Like this goes back to Franz Ferdinand.
No question.
And the genesis of World War One. Later, now you get Oswald, Permindex, and really right before Oswald, you have the Nazis, right? World War II. And when I looked into that, I found at least 3 post-war secret groups that focused on espionage and other various social engineering endeavors. This group of global assassin, it's a spy network. They would just contract work out, like Reinhard Gehlen started one of those. And then Dulles meets Gehlen after the war. Then you see MK Ultra start in 1953. And I think personally, my opinion here, I'll segue us into Manchurian Candidate. Personally, my opinion here is that 1953, 1954, the Eisenhower administration and the Dulles brothers come in and they just set up the world. They set up the state of affairs. and that JFK would walk into, right? These programs had been running for nearly a decade at the moment JFK was killed. So you've got the post World War II world of government and shadow government being set up by Dulles in collaboration with Nazis. And in many ways, it's the Dulles brothers world that you see exposed, in my opinion, in this Manchurian Candidate movie. I'd love to hear that's my opinion, but I'm excited to hear yours on that.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I think at the timestamp of the book and
Hold on, William, you're
sorry, I hit the
okay.
button.
Yeah, you're good.
The timestamp of the book and the film are very important. So it's 1959. The film comes out in 62, right as the Dulles brothers are there. Dulles gets fired by JFK, I think, in 61 after Bay of Pigs. So that world, they're seeing that world as this new Cold War world. And so I think it's all there. Like they are really world controllers is probably a more accurate phrase. And Galen, these guys are all Knights of Malta too. Himmler, Galen, Dulles. There's like,
That's interesting.
and also Shaw is alleged to be a Knight of Malta. He's on a list, and it makes perfect sense that he would be a Knight of Malta because one of the elements about Shaw that a lot of people are overlooked, which isn't in the JFK movie, which is okay. I mean, some of the critiques of the JFK movie, like they expect it to like do too much in a 3-hour time frame. Like there's so much studying to do about JFK. So some of these critiques about Stone and JFK, I think, are silly. But that would be a connection between all these guys, and that's like it's some kind of connection, like a supranational connection outside of normal national boundaries, which is really crazy.
I love that. It's like a secret society connection. We do see a lot of those.
Yeah.
That's interesting, William. Knights of Malta. Is that like is that like the Catholic Church's take on Knights Templar or something?
It's kind of like the Templar Knights and the Knights of Malta kind of sprang out of the Crusades of like the 10th century. So everything that happened in the Holy Land. And the Templars were supposedly wrapped up, I think, in the 14th century. They got too powerful. They were really the first original kind of international bankers. You could take a writ from one Templar place to another without transporting gold and drop it off and get gold from one place to another. And they got too powerful. And so the king, actually, I think they took over the Templar Knights, and Jacques de Molay was, I think, one of the guys killed on Friday the 13th. I think that's why the date is, yeah. So that's why the Friday the 13th became a day of infamy. But the Knights Templar survived. They actually, no, the Knights supposedly like in a different incarnation later, but the Knights Malta have always been around. They became the Maltese Knights. They were actually the Knights of St. John the Hospitaller. So it's based upon John the Baptist. And then they went to Rhodes, and then they went to Crete, I believe, and then ended up in Malta. They were moving around in the Mediterranean, but they're avowedly anti-Islam and definitely associated with the Catholic Church. And one of the Holy Roman Emperors, I think it was Charles V, granted them the Maltese island as to be their kind of central place, which it still is today. So all these knights and are buried there in the church there, and I think it's Valletta is the city within the Maltese island.
Yeah, and I think there's an extensive network of tunnels beneath that island as well.
It's been bombed, the center of wars. They were like the Ottomans tried to take it over. Like I think Mel Gibson was going to make a movie based upon that fight of the Knights of Malta fighting against Islam or the Ottoman Empire trying to take them in, I think, the 16th century. But yeah, it has a lot of history. Malta has a lot of history. It's still extant today.
Yeah.
I think there's 12,000 Knights of Malta today. There's Dames of Malta. Almost every kind of elite person or aristocratic family, even King Charles, the current king, King Charles III, is a Knight of Malta. His mother was a Dame of Malta. So it's very much about the Western aristocracy and Christianity, and it's tied. They have a kind of a curious relationship to the Catholic Church. It's actually kind of like an international thing with its own passports, and they have their own Knight of Malta kind of center in Rome. So they are Christian associated, but they're also international. So being a Knight of Malta provides a wide variety of benefits. You can have your own passport. You have a international network, and they are engaged in good works. They show up in other places to, provide shelter and healthcare for people. But it's also, there's a lot of very powerful people who were involved in this. I mean, just like the
Yeah.
Dulles brothers, and I mean, the list just goes on and on. You have John Roberts, who's the head of the Supreme Court as a Knight of Malta. They don't publish their lists.
They don't have to. That's what I was thinking. It's like these orders have been around for so long. When you've been around for thousands of years, you don't need PR. Like you just exist. And that's why people don't think that they're, but I mean, these orders have been around for a long time. I mean, I looked into the Templars and they emerge around 1100 AD, but they come out of a Greek order called the Brothers of the East that goes back who knows how long. They trace the origins clear back to Atlantis. They've these orders have always existed. I think they've just split off into these other little clubs, but they've been around for a long time. And like Clay Shaw, is that what you're saying? He was a Knight of Malta?
He's rumored to be a Knight of Malta.
The
He's on a
Permandex
list.
guy. He's in Permandex and Knights of Malta. That's
It makes
significant.
perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. These are known facts. He worked as an aide-de-camp for a big-time general during World War II. His name was Thrasher, and he was awarded like these orders from France, from Holland, from England. So these kind of military orders, he was the beneficiary of it. He was considered to be a very effective person. And there's pictures of him. Like, I can bring up these pictures. Like he's in his military thing, so he has a military connection, like so many of these other people, to World War II. Basically, Thrasher was responsible for getting all of the resources and military things for Operation Overlord, which was the invasion of northern France in June of 1944.
Yeah.
So he was involved in a very important element of that war. And so it makes sense that somebody would entrust him with secrets
Right.
and to do things. So
Yeah, and I love that. I love that you've got in real life in the JFK assassination, you've got a guy named Clay Shaw, and then in this movie, you've got Raymond Shaw.
it's amazing.
I
I don't
love
know
that.
how that worked out,
I know. That's
but
that's
that's
like one
like,
of those like that's like one of those play Pink Floyd The Wall and it matches up to uh whatever the movie is, Dorothy.
yeah, it's like a weird sync.
Yeah,
The
weird sync.
For people who don't know, Garrison's investigation focused on Shaw. Shaw was arrested, Shaw was charged, and Shaw was tried. And that's really what Garrison saw him as a core central piece. And I think he was right. Like, there are now things that are disclosed, like, we got to help Shaw out from the CIA and all this stuff. Like, they knew who Shaw was. He passed away in 1975, I think, something like that. But like, it was, I think that Garrison was right on the money. So it's interesting that he's a Knight of Malta. A lot of the people, I mean, he's on a list I saw. Like I said, they're just not
Oh,
divulged.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, no,
I
I
would be
wouldn't
surprised. Every time I turn around, I'm finding out that all these guys that are involved in some type of way to big moments in our history, in our nation's history, all the guys hanging around in the shadows or even behind the podiums are usually involved with some sort of an order, be it the Masons or the Templars. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are Templars that we just don't realize it. Like Washington, Jefferson, those guys were actually Knights Templars.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really, if you look back at human societies, being in a secret group is so important to your political affairs, your political viability, and your connections. And it's just like almost every society had some kind of secret group that guided people. I mean, it's not just in the West. They just have secret groups that
The
there's an
Cherokee.
internal cadre. Yeah, whatever. I
Hmm.
mean, it's just really incredible. Whether the priest class or the Aztecs, or it's
Yes.
always that way. And then there's always that kind of us and them mentality, which is why the last 400 years in the UK, every prime minister has been a Mason.
Yeah.
In
My
addition to
God.
who else, to what else they're up to. Like, I don't
Mhm.
even know.
A lot of these guys are in multiple orders. I mean, that's what I found when I started looking into the origins of the Nazi Party. I looked into the Thule Society and all those guys. It was created by two guys. Thule was Walter Neuhaus and Rudolf von Sabotendorf. Collectively, Sabotendorf and Neuhaus were in about 12 other secret society occult orders.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's like how who knows how many other orders these guys are in. That's what the Nazi Party was born out of, by the way, folks. An amalgamation of, I'll just call them occult orders because that's what
Yeah.
they cared about was alchemy and the seven sciences and the and all matters of all things occult. Yeah.
They were kind of in conflict with the Christian conservatives. So they were kind of like the group of people who were racist occultists and a lot of gay people against this kind of like more conservative Charlie Kirk type people.
Mm.
So there's always that. There's always kind of that battle within the right. Actually, it's very not that uncommon here that a lot of those guys aren't necessarily Christians, although they
Sure.
team up with them for political reasons, like the Bushes, who
Yeah.
are not say they're Christians outwardly.
Yeah, there's this strange facade of Protestantism in this country that a lot of these politicians seem to like to cling to. It's like, why does Joe Biden feel the need to say that he's Catholic? That guy's nothing morally, right?
No, it's totally
It,
moral.
so it's like, why do they have the need to claim some sort of a Protestant faith? And it's like you go all the way back to Washington and ask that question. Like, why did they do this? Because when you look into what those guys were really interested in, it's not there. That Christian faith is not there. It's just something that they put on for the camera. I don't know. I haven't quite figured it out yet.
Yeah, I think that they have to do it for votes. I mean, that's who they're talking to. It also is a good shield for being a moralist. Like, I'm a Christian, guys, just like you. Let me in, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
All
think
for sure
I think Trump
votes.
is fake. I don't think Trump's a Christian.
No, I don't think
He
so
says
either.
it. He holds the Bible up like a prop, and he's always talked to things. And now he got into office, and it's back to warmongering, baby. Let's
He
move up
was,
the Department of Defense to $1 trillion
yeah.
budget. Come on.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, you just give it some time, you see what these guys are really about, right? And
Yeah,
but he was in the church in New York. I looked into it at one point. Trump was, and it's like a kind of a watered down like social.
Justice Church or something.
Yeah, well, yeah, the guy was really into Swedenborg. The pastor was. So there you have
Trust.
that occult influence seeping in there in the back door, but it's still there nonetheless.
Swedenborgianism influenced Joseph Smith too.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah, very much.
yeah.
Like heaven's real, people are having sex in heaven, and they're real, and you're living life, and it's like the same thing. It's just like
Yeah,
life carries on there.
Trump's pastor wrote a book. I'd have to look it up. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but the principles in the book mirror Swedenborg.
Trust.
It's wild. Uh,
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, that's a whole
yeah.
nother story,
Anyways,
but it is interesting, this kind of Shaw thing, and I think also the concept of war. I think that Charlie Kirk was against the Iranian war, or
mm,
against striking Iran again. So this is like, well, this is our agenda. We're gonna, Iran has to go, or we want to have regime change. And if Kirk is not on board, like, guys, we need to have the whole squad, walking in lockstep, and this is all right. So Kirk may have
mm,
been like a little ruffled some feathers. In all these assassinations, almost everyone going into the 60s to the present, to Vince Foster, to Charlie Kirk, there's some kind of buildup. It's always kind of, and that's what a lot of Charlie Kirk's friends are doing to their benefit of talking about Charlie Kirk, is like there's tension in behind the scenes. There's people's feathers are getting ruffled. People are getting pissed. People are screaming at each other. There's talks like, and there's usually some kind of meeting before Vince Foster was murdered. I think he went to Camp David, and supposedly he had a talking to like a week before he ended up dead. But it seemed like there was some kind of like, look, you need to toe the line. And so it seems like that's what they were saying to Kirk, is like, you need to get on board. You don't get independent thought.
yeah.
And
That's what happened with James Forrestal.
right.
He was against some sort of an ally with Israel. He didn't want us to ally with Israel in some sort of way, and that went totally against what Truman was trying to do.
Right. So like, I mean, he so suddenly goes crazy and jumps out of a window like Olson. Same year, I think. I'm
Right.
pretty
Yeah.
close. So
And I think there was more to Forrestal's murder, but that was definitely like you're saying. There's these tensions in the background. That's I'm just throwing it in because I mean, he was against the pro-Israel rally at the time. So yeah.
yeah, they don't come out of nowhere. Usually it's there's somebody gets triggered and then it becomes personal. So like
Yeah.
a lot of these people, like apparently they're on the right or the left, there's like kingmakers and influencers and donors, and those people are expecting something in return for the handout. Like I think that Candace Owens was an actress. Like I think that she literally was like an actress, and somebody brought because she's well spoken and intelligent, and they brought her in and turned her into a right wing influencer, which was great because she's black. So that not everybody talking about that is some white chick. So I think that worked for the conservative movement. It also brought in a lot of African Americans, and so I think that she was good. And then she kind of started getting off script. I think she was at Daily
Mm,
Wire, right? She left, and
hmm.
her and Shapiro got pissed. But yeah, so I think that there's that kind of feeling within the right, the modern kind of younger right of like we're not happy about this genocide in the Middle East, and people are like, what? Why are you not happy? Like, so
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of these people are trouble. I've been saying like somebody's going to get killed soon, and I've been saying that for a year, and I didn't think it would be Charlie Kirk, but I think they were going to send a message. I think it's probably this. It's curtail for independent talk, and to get people in line for more war. Really, it's really the
Hmm.
jackals.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. And yeah, I think maybe some of these influencers got have been emboldened by the way things have been going. Last, like Tucker Carlson goes independent, air quotes. He's not a Fox News guy anymore. He's doing his, and I think a lot of people thought, oh well, we can break off and say whatever we want now. But these are made people.
Right. Right. It's a very good point. So I think I actually kind of analogize it to like what happens in people get killed a lot, but in the music industry or things like that, where an artist gets helped out by a producer and then becomes famous and wealthy and like, I want to get out of this producing contract. And the producer's like, or the company is like, we made you. We want that revenue to go on. You're working for us. And the musician's like, I made you money. So they're seeing it from different standpoints, and then the musician ends up dead. It's happened so many times to musicians, early deaths, and
Hmm.
it's a lot of it's about these things that are building up, these tensions that are building up between parties, where they're getting more and more angry. They get lawyers, and there's threats of lawsuits, and then conveniently somebody dies. So
Yeah, I
I think
wonder
that
how much of
these
that play with Diddy too. Sorry to interrupt, but like, it's
who
like
knows?
they didn't kill him, but they certainly did everything else to him.
Yeah.
Was he the made guy who got out of line and was like, man, you work for us. Don't ever forget it.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I've heard things like that happen to Chappelle, like
Mm.
he had a talking to, and he like fled the country. Like, people want that control or something like that. So you're lucky in some of these relationships to get out alive, and then you realize, oh, holy smokes, this political party or this company is like run by like a mob. Like they have enforcers, and they have things that bad things can happen to you because there's so much money at stake.
Hmm.
So a lot of these people realize, oh, I'm dealing with very ruthless people, and some realize it too late.
Yeah, and that's Hollywood too, right? At least back in the day, it was certainly a mob industry. I mean, I imagine there's still some of that lingering around.
I would for sure. There's a lot of corruption,
Yeah.
a lot of budgetary corruption. A lot of people have ended up dead, probably were murdered. Like
Yeah.
the stories are there's just tons of
And
stories like that.
that's the same in, Hollywood slash the music industry because I'm trying to remember there was a show that came out, really good show. It was this guy who played Wolverine. I don't remember the actor's name, but it was all about he was like one of these fixers for music industry moguls. He would just go around and he was basically just a mobster. He'd go around and dangle people off roofs and just get stuff done, you
Yeah.
know? And it's based on real life occurrences. Like a lot of these moguls in the music industry really have this like guy that they can call who will come up and show up at your door.
Diddy had a guy. He had a fixer. A lot of these guys really have fixers. It's just like Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
They called out
exactly.
one guy to fix stuff, and so things get done. The girl gets pregnant. She's talking too much. You got a little business problem with your, you know, landlord. We can help. Well, somebody can help, and then it binds you to them, right? So then that's a part of blackmail and also the relationship. I helped you out with that. Stay on board, and I'm going to make money off of you and all this stuff. So
Yeah.
it can be pretty rough out there, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of these politicians are brought up like that too. Like I think Bill Clinton and Kamala Harris and
The Dulles
some
brothers.
Dulles brothers are definitely foot soldiers for the Rockefeller, elite Easterners, those guys. I mean, they were elites themselves, very
They were.
smart, quite capable people, but they were working for, Sullivan and Cromwell, and
Well, their what grandpa was a senator and their uncle was
I think
also
so, yeah.
some sort of
Taft, something like that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, some relationship to Taft, but they were both very well educated. I think they both went to Princeton.
Hmm.
They're
They would go to DC when they were young and spend time with that uncle or
set.
grandfather that was a
Yeah,
senator. They said I read one book where it said that they would literally winter in DC or summer in DC,
interesting.
one of the two. They would go for a big chunk of the year and just sit around the dining room table and listen to these guys politic. They were wolves brought up in the system.
They're amazing people. I'm not making a moral judgment. Like I think Dulles was like almost like a kingpin level type person, like a
Sure.
really super intelligent guy, and they were ruthless, man. Like his nickname is the Shark. Like that's not a nickname you want. Like holy smokes, it's not.
Yeah, you
But
it makes me think about Sinatra too, where it's like the origin story, if I'm remembering correctly, is that Sinatra's mom had some sort of a speakeasy tavern where they featured music, and that's kind of how he would get up and entertain the guests and sing when he was really young. But the place was like filled with mobsters, so he grew
mobsters.
up he grew up in that environment, and later we see him being the liaison between the mob and the JFK administration and other things as well. And I just, that's I was thinking about that when I was watching this because I watched this movie. I knew you were coming on, so I was like, I'm watching this Manchurian Candidate movie, the 1962 one for people out there listening, because I had seen the Denzel Washington, but I went back and watched this old one with Sinatra, and wow, I mean, it blew my mind. I mean, by God, I watched that movie, and I was blown away that they even put it out, which I know they waited till the 80s, but still, what a movie. It feels like a message. It's like 1984 in my mind. It's like I tell people all the time on my show, like, go get you a copy of 1984, read it, and just be on the lookout. Be aware, like that. Our future might be uh, presented in that book, so just be aware of it. I think I'm gonna have to start telling people to go out and watch this movie, William, because I got that same sort of a feeling from it, like it was meaningful.
They should read the book too. Condon gets kind of overseen in this. Like the movie's brilliant. There's great actors. Angela Lansbury's incredible. But some of the stuff that's in that movie are direct quotes from the book. Like I don't think that Axelrod, who's the screenwriter, he didn't have to work very hard. He could just cut and paste or do whatever. Condon was brilliant, man. He didn't.
Mm.
He's kind of a lost writer, unfortunately, but he had a great frame of reference, classical allusions, great vocabulary, a lot of occult numerology in the film and the book. And the film did come out in 62. It was taken off the shelves or taken out of distribution after the JFK assassination. And
Oh,
then
did
it
they
wasn't,
release it for a little
yeah,
time?
yeah,
Oh,
it was released
wow.
in 62. It wasn't very, very popular. It did okay at the box office, but they
Well, just the
took it.
fact that they put it out is something.
Yeah, they were afraid. They were afraid that they were going to get in trouble, seen as like an anti-Russian film and all this
Mm.
other stuff. I don't think they knew what was going to happen a year later, but it rhymes with the Kennedy assassination. There's absolutely no question about it.
No question.
And all the information in there, like they had a very The guy's name was William Joseph Bryan. He's friends with Sinatra. He's friends with F. Lee Bailey. He's friends with Melvin Belli. He's friends with a lot of like celebrities in Hollywood. And he's the consultant behind the scenes. And I think he put in a lot of his visual uh, indicators. He's a brilliant guy, totally dark, evil person too. But I think he put in a lot of his stuff into that visual element of the film of what happens to people who are induced into hypnotism and what else. So
And I was going to ask you about that, about what do we know about this author? Because, I mean, when I say I think this film was a message, what I'm really saying is I think that I got the feeling that there was stuff being leaked in this movie. And I thought about it where it's like, so the movie comes out in 62, it's based on the book. The book comes out in 1959. So I'm assuming that maybe the book was written in 58, 57, and then MK Ultra comes out in 1953. And it's like, did he know something about MK Ultra in that small amount of time?
I think he knew there were actually a lot of like back then they had magazines, which like was the way, or newspapers, the way people got information. And there were a lot of magazines, modern men's magazines, that covered the topic of communist mind control and a lot of the stuff that
Mhm.
happened in MK Ultra. And they were accessible to the public. Like authors would publish things in these magazines. So I'm assuming I don't have proof at this point, but Condon, who's a very skilled literary writer, had access to some of those papers and things like that that were coming to the public. And so some of these things were available. So they weren't all secret. Like now, because of FOIA and stuff like that. But somehow you're right. Condon keyed in to key elements of that. Condon went on, by the way, to write the foreword to one of the two most important mind control books out there. He wrote the foreword to Operation Mind Control by Walter Bauert, which is very telling. He tells a story about this broken clown who had his legs and arms broken so he could maintain a clown. And he uses that as a exemplar or symbol of what humanity will be if they don't understand mind control. He'll just remain kind of a bruised clown. And I think it's very effective. And that's really one of the most important. The other is Marx's book, which is Search for the Manchurian Candidate. So the Manchurian Candidate theme pervades up to today. Like this guy, Jay Robinson, is a Manchurian Candidate. Patsy, I'm pretty much confirmed at this point. It's only been 9 days, but I mean, there's so many improbabilities. He's also being put in a special ward outside the jail, which should terrify everybody. If you know anything about these behavior modification things, if they put you in a place where you're, um, sensory deprivation or anything, you'll say anything to get it to stop. It's a form of torture. It's acknowledged as a form of torture by the UN, however much that is. So basically, he's just looking there. There's pictures of the guy. The guy looks zapped. He's just staring at you like, why isn't he saying, I didn't do it. I wasn't there. This is a frame up. You're trying to, bust me, blah, 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 blah. Like, and also I think that Candace Owens just published a picture that,
The Dairy Queen?
yeah, he's at the Dairy Queen 17 minutes after blowing Charlie thing. Charlie wasn't shot from the front from a 30-06. That's obvious. It should be obvious to everybody. Anybody promoting that story or who's promoted that story is either muddied the waters or is deliberately, I would say, involved in something much more nefarious.
And then you see that there was this beautifully mounted camera right behind Charlie's head, mounted on the wall. Like, and there's footage of the guy, one of Charlie Kirk's guys, allegedly going up there right after the shooting and dismantling it, taking it apart and putting it in some sort of a case. And it's like, what's on that? That if we could get that footage, that might, I think, lend some credence to what you're saying, for sure.
Those were high-powered cameras. There was one pointed right at Charlie, which I think is like a super modern digital camera. So if it was me, I would put that into the public.
Yeah.
Because there's thousands of researchers who are just waiting to know the truth. Americans deserve to know the truth about all these assassins. They've been lied to for like 60 years at least. So this is a different one because it's taking place in a high tech, data is easily transferred, and It's not like something where they can cover stuff up back into JFK stuff. So
Yeah. And again, like something I was trying to articulate earlier. I mean, there's not just a couple lone wolf investigators out there like Bill Cooper anymore. It's like there's a bunch of people now who are weighing in on this thing. And you're right. You brought up the Epstein files. It wasn't just Charlie Kirk. It's I saw what happened with the Epstein files, where everybody, a big portion of the public, was not accepting the narrative anymore. And but it's like now with the Charlie Kirk thing, it's like wow, it's at a whole another level even, where I don't see anybody going with what they're saying. Everybody seems to think that there's a conspiracy here, rightfully so.
they're rightfully so. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think they're going to go along with it anymore. I think the American people are fed up.
This is like a
So
milestone for us,
yeah,
perhaps.
I think Charlie Kirk didn't deserve it. Like for being a loudmouth, he was making like things that like good things. Like this is bad. The genocide in the Middle East is bad. So it's honorable to say this isn't good. I don't support that. I don't support that. So I don't think that what he was doing was that bad. A lot of people, it's weird, like the ideology of the left or their mindset that they like people celebrated his death. I'm like, why? Why are you celebrating?
I
He's like
know.
actually having dialogue. He actually has principles that you can just turn off your TV. Like, don't listen. I didn't listen to Charlie Kirk. Like, I mean, I respect the guy, whatever. But like, I just like, okay, that's good. You're having a college debate with somebody who's unhinged and mentally ill, whatever. Um, like these people's mentality is really strange.
Yeah,
And the celebration's bad. It's bad for society. It's actually a kind of a cultural and spiritual malaise, very serious one.
yeah, yeah. It goes back to I think a point you were making earlier about the potency of the mind control that's been put on the American people. Some people are just so R's and so D's. They're so mind controlled in that faction that they'll do anything. That's like, it's like Roman times. Like, what do we do with these Christians? I'll just throw them into the lions.
It's
Let's
like
make a sport out
1984.
of it.
It's like 1984, Goldstein or whatever. This is your guy. Scream at him. He's your enemy. But there's somebody behind these scenes that's even worse. It's a uniparty anyway. All these guys are making money and
Right.
insider trading and setting up the system for themselves. Like it's just a corrupt nightmare. And the people who think that DC's out there to help you, like the American people have been royally screwed over. So like you think your politicians there to help you? You're stupid. Like these guys are helping themselves. They're not helping you.
Yeah.
Nobody's helped you get a house, get a job. They've given your jobs away to foreigners. They've given houses and better loans to other people who don't even pay into the system. Like you're getting raped and you put up with this. You think that the Republicans are your enemy? you're, you're
It's so
stupid. It's
true.
comical.
It's
It's
so true.
comically stupid. So the mind controls there.
Yeah.
Conditioning, operant conditioning. I
Mm,
think what they will never get to is that some of these political parties at the top, they have behavioral psychologists that are very skilled and know what to do. They know how to get people to do stuff and then not even acknowledge. There's like techniques that they're using on members of the horde of the political parties that they don't even know is happening. Double bind kind of scams and constant repetition of phrases, safe and effective. Like the
right.
whole like COVID's another example of a massive global mind control operation. So I think you can go back to Manchurian Candidate and the MK Ultra in the 50s and behavioral psychology to see how important it is to our day-to-day lives here in 2025. There's just absolutely no doubt about it.
Yeah,
Understanding
no
these
doubt.
techniques, yeah.
No question. No question. And I think that's why the film was as potent as it was for me. Because the Charlie Kirk stuff happens, and then a couple days later, I watch this film, and it was very potent in that regard. Because I'm like, wow, this is kind of summing up the situation right now. And it's not just right now. It's like you said. I mean, this goes back to the 60s. This goes back to JFK. You said the film rhymes with the JFK thing, and I agree, especially in the latter part of the film where they show the guy going in and sort of scouting out the location where the political rally is going to be, and he's looking for where am I going to set up with my gun, and it's just as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, wow, this is so spot on that
Charlie
somebody,
Kirk.
yes. So this is what happens. It's like they're just showing you what happens. I don't know how did they manage to be that spot on? It's and was like my real question here is like it made me see Sinatra and JFK almost in a different light. It's like, were they doing this? Everybody says Kubrick releases information, leaks information. Was this some sort of a leak on their part?
Yeah, it's kind of like a disclosure. I think so. I think
Mm,
it was. If you look at the film in the contexts of other films that came out that Frankenheimer was involved in, that JFK was involved, JFK was involved in greenlighting this film. So he knew he and Sinatra were close friends. They had to kind of like separate because Sinatra's mafia ties were becoming more apparent and the JFK administration was anti-mafia. They sent Marcello, who's like the mafia boss of New Orleans, to Guatemala. His brother did. It's kind of it's like a backstabbing thing too because their dad was kind of mob connected in his own way, and the mob helped him get elected, according to like other historians in Chicago. So this was kind of like one of their. They alienated a lot of their support, so it's not surprising that they were targets of assassination. But the 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 book, JFK was he liked to read. He read a lot of spy novels, and he had read Condon's book. And Sinatra was at Hyannisport, the kind of family compound for the Kennedys, and they decided that they were going to make it. And so Sinatra, close friends of Kennedy, gets the okay greenlit out of L.A. by some executive Kennedy knows. They apportion $2.2 million for it and start shooting it. They get Frankenheimer, who has TV experience, to be the director. And then they film it. It gets released in 62. And then Frankenheimer goes over to direct another film that JFK is involved in called 7 Days in May, which is about a military coup in the United States. And the title refers to the 7 days that the coup is taking place. And it's in my slides, but basically JFK was involved in making that. This is also kind of a disclosure. This is what he was going through. It was like he was having all these conflicts with intel people and military people. And he actually went to Hyannisport one weekend so Frankenheimer could shoot on the White House grounds. There's actually scenes of Kirk Douglas on the White House grounds, being, shot in this film, this fictional film, which actually comes closer to reality because the military is also involved in the JFK coup. It's not just intel people. There's a lot of people involved. It was almost like, I think that Garrison uses the death of Julius Caesar as an exemplar where they're all involved. They're all involved in the killing of him. They all dip their blood to share
right.
guilt. And I think that all these guys did the kind of same thing.
Yeah. Because
So,
yeah, when you, or at least in my situation, my experience when I researched JFK and the assassination and all the surrounding figures, like I just kept there was a convergence of many different worlds there, whether it be the mob or the aerospace or the military or politicians and the different factions of politicians. It just seems like everybody, big oil, there's
there's all,
everybody.
it just shows the interest of how many powerful factions there are involved in politics. There's an underground faction mob. There's the military industrial complex, kind of like a mob. There's the intel people. There's the military people. There's, big business is involved. So there's so many things that are happening. When the spigot goes off, like after JFK dies, they go back to Vietnam. It's right there in JFK movie. Like they just turned on the spigot so that the tax dollars go to this war and all these people who are involved. Johnson was a major shareholder in one of these companies, and when he died, he was worth like $250 million because he was making money from the Vietnam War. Like that's how corrupt he was. So they knew a lot of these assassinations. They know who they're putting in place, and you see that in a very creepy way with Kirk because after he got done, people are like, guys, they didn't even wait till he was buried, not until Kirk was buried. He literally said, we're going to do the same thing, but they're probably going to do the same thing without anything anti-critical of Israel or anything anti-war with Iran or anything that questions the military industrial complex. So you see the same thing. Whether MLK, they got rid of MLK, Jesse Jackson comes in. RFK is probably the front runner, the most charismatic guy. Way too dangerous to let into political power in any way, shape, or form. Nixon becomes president. Um, they really wanted to get rid of Malcolm X. That's an FBI job, in my opinion. He knew it was coming too. He was so brilliant, man. Malcolm X is just incredible. I mean, I like a lot of those figures, but I see Malcolm X as really a natural kind of genius, like something really special. He was such a great orator, and he was morphing too, kind of like Charlie Kirk. He was morphing from the Nation of Islam to actual Islam. And then like he's like, whoa, now I'm seeing things from a different perspective. Here I am growing up as this kind of racially segregated kid in a racist America. And now I'm seeing the world from a different perspective. He was smart enough to make those kind of personality changes. So he would have been like Kirk. Kirk is only 31. This is a decapitation type strike on the culture and leadership. He could have been a senator or something like that. His chops were getting better. His dialogues, he's getting more sophisticated. And much like Malcolm X, they couldn't have him around for another 20, 30 years.
And that was an
Sad,
assassination.
I'm not laughing,
That was like an assassination season, right? Going back to Malcolm X and MLK, because they killed JFK, they killed Kennedy's brother, then they killed. I looked at it once. It was like the assassinations of all of those guys were not far apart.
Yeah, I think JFK is 63, Malcolm X is 65, and then MLK and RFK are like 4 months apart in 68. Yeah. And there was also like a backdrop of real racism there. And there was a guy who died in 62, I think in Louisiana. I can't remember his name, but there was a lot of civil rights violence too going on. And a lot of racists around the JFK assassination too, not just CIA, but like really hardcore, like,
I was, thinking about this film too, and just what if this was them putting out some information on the activities of CIA and the Dulles brothers and even that Eisenhower administration who perpetrate a lot of things that we've been talking about, like they would have these CIA wars that would help their stock money, help their stock in United Fruit, and all that sort of thing. They had private wars going on that helped line their pockets. And
it's real fascism. Like it's actually real fascism.
It's actual, yeah. And then behind the scenes, you've got the MK Ultra program running. It starts around, 53, I guess. And then this movie comes out and it's like, was this JFK's weird type of way of exposing the Dulles?
I think so. Maybe not directly to Dulles, but I think that it's hard to fathom or imagine that he didn't have access to some of those secret documents. We know he looked at the Northwoods document, which has been released, which is this crazy plot and plan to like blame Cuba and blow up planes and stuff like that. But what else did he see that we may not know today, and which he couldn't disclose, like just through his office? So I'm thinking that he had to have at least a glimmer. I mean, he was in Washington for a while. He was like, I think he was a House of Representatives guy. He knew a lot. I mean, I think he won. It's kind of interesting because they kind of built a legend of there was a ghost written book from him called Profiles in Courage that I think he won the Pulitzer for or something like that. So this is a knowledgeable guy, well-educated, Harvard. And it's hard for me to believe that in that kind of heady stew of the Korean War, and he was a World War II vet too, Pacific Theater. But I think it's hard for me to believe that he didn't have an understanding of some of this behavioral modification stuff and the information. Maybe that was like this is total speculation on my part, but maybe he knew some of these things that were happening that were bad, and that's another reason why he felt like he had to get rid of Dulles.
Yeah, bingo. I was about to ask that because
So then the Bay of Pigs is just like an excuse, and maybe he's like playing a really dark game where he doesn't want the Bay of Pigs to win so that he can have an excuse to, get rid of all these people, who he wants,
Yeah.
So like that may be the real thing is like, he's pulling the rug underneath them knowingly. That may be why they were really angry. Like he's not just like, oh, I don't think it's a good idea. It's that he's doing it to subvert their careers and lives and stuff like that. Like
Yeah, what the film portrays are activities that Dulles and Galen were involved with.
Galen's incredible. I don't know how some of these Nazis made it to like survived because
I don't
Galen and
know.
Skorzeny
Yeah.
kind of went back to like nefarious stuff, man. And
Oh,
I
they
mean,
just set
yeah,
up they used their old network and their old
yeah,
connections. Like they said that Galen was allowed to, Dulles let him keep all his contacts within Russia. Because Galen was like Hitler's number one spy master in Russia, I think. And he
yeah.
had a Rolodex of names, and they said, oh, we just took them under our wing. We adopted all that. We adopted the whole Nazi program. Galen was answering directly to some of the U.S. presidents at one point.
I'm
His
not
memos
surprised.
were being read by, yeah,
There's pictures of him like tooling around the United States. Like this is a major Nazi, and he's like farting around the states in the late 40s and early 50s.
yeah.
And like I think that there was even stories where like there's weird mixes of stories between Dulles. I mean, sorry, weird mixes of like money aggregations between I.G. Farben, the Dulles brothers, and Himmler. And the Germans knew they were going to lose, so they started offshoring a lot of their money, and so they just to keep it out of the hands of anybody. And apparently, Dulles was involved in a lot of that, like he was helping them.
Hmm.
And then for a fee or something. And then when the war was over and the dust settled, all of a sudden Germany had this amazing renaissance. It's because all that money that was offshored in the billions and billions of dollars into companies in South America or Italy or somewhere else all got repatriated. And so that was kind of what they did to kind of rebuild Germany after the war.
Yeah, those guys
And
were hiding,
and
sending
Dulles is
money
involved in that. He's like right in the middle of all that
for
with
sure.
Galen.
For sure. Yeah, the Nazis had deals worked out with the Americans before
I
the
think
end of
so.
the war. And yeah, the Germans were stashing money all over the place. Like Galen, one of the first things he did before he came over and turned himself into the Americans was he went up into the Alps and stashed a bunch of money and a bunch of files and stuff like that. Then I think he turned himself over, and we made like a little bit of a public display out of it at first and made it look like we were going to take him to jail. But what they did was they put him in the van and gave everybody the made it look like he was going to jail. But what they did was they took him to a tailor and got him a brand new suit made and said, now you're in, you work for us. There's no jail time, right? And but like you said, all that money was being sent everywhere. Dulles had his hands on a lot of this money. They had that Nazi guy who went down to South America, Martin
He had a
Bormann.
lot.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of them. But Bormann
Borman.
had like billions, they said.
Yeah, Borman was chief of staff to Hitler. There was a guy, Barbie, went to like Ecuador, and then Mengele was seen down there. He changed his name as like Dr. Green. And then the guy who got arrested by the Israelis and brought back and tried. Um, what was his name? They found him. He was somebody, I think he ran Auschwitz. He ran the trains. It was,
Hmm.
I forgot his name, but there's a lot. There's very strange how some people got away and without anything who are really criminals, like they're involved in all kinds of dark stuff, like Skorzeny. And then some people got killed at Nuremberg or were let go, or the AIDS. These red lines, a lot of it were Catholic Church type stuff too.
Yeah.
So it's
Very small number of people were tried at Nuremberg.
yeah,
Like I think it was 216 is one of the numbers I saw recently. But, there were, at the height of the war, there were 8.5 million members of the Nazi Party. So it's like, what happened to the rest of them, right? We only tried like 200 of them. What?
right.
They infiltrated the aerospace, our aerospace business. I think they,
Braun.
Von Braun and all those guys,
He's just one of many. Braun was just one of many.
yeah, yeah, they infiltrated the whole thing over here, and I often wonder if that's not what Eisenhower was talking about, warning about, uh, when he was talked about the military-industrial complex getting too powerful and all that. Was he talking about the aerospace Nazis?
Possibly in part. I mean, it really was being. I mean, you have to see America at the end of World War II, too. The whole European continent is exhausted. They've got all their children, the young men are dead, and the
Mhm.
US loses like a couple 100,000, but we are untouched, you know? And so there's no other competitor. It's really the unipolar world. And even the kind of bipolar, us against the Russians. The Russians are incredible people, but they were exhausted too, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, they presented themselves as a threat, and it was very useful for the Americans here to have a boogeyman in the Russians far away, seven
Oh
thousand
yeah.
miles away, and all that. Like they blame the Russians for all kinds of stuff,
Oh,
and
I
it's
think that that whole Cold War thing was at least in part a psyop.
fiction. Yeah, I think so
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was
And you're
partially.
right, man. Europe was in ruins. That's a great point. It's easy to see how we came out top dog.
Yeah, so I mean, I compare those post World War II Americans almost be given what the dream world of the Nazis wanted to be was put into the lap of all the American people. They're not by their machinations or anything they had, but they were very smart. They were untouched by the war. They had this engine, this beginning of this industrialization, 50s and prosperity, and they really could just do it, and they really, really almost controlled the world through a variety of different means. Like the
Hmm.
CIA is very important in putting people in and out of power all over the place. Italy and Indonesia, and I mean, you can just go through the list. I don't know where we weren't central. They say that like once after World War II, almost all of the heads of Mexico were installed by the CIA. That was the most important thing, is that all those people who are running Mexico are basically, promoted by us. They were our people. So it's almost like Mexico was kind of like
Another
uh,
Israel.
yeah, something like that, or during that time. I don't know what it's like today,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it is interesting what they were granted. And then they had all this talent, the great, educational stuff. And that's where MK Ultra came out of, is like, it didn't have like some centralized pyramid where they did it. They just expanded on all the existing universities and hospitals and stuff, and just had little players everywhere. It's really incredible.
Well,
So
that was that. A part of that is that international Nazi network of espionage rings that Galen was a part of. We modeled our CIA directly, in my opinion, directly out of the Nazis' spy network,
I wouldn't be surprised. The the
OSS,
the
and all
the,
that.
the founding documents, my understanding, were actually drafted by Ian Fleming. That's my understanding, is that he founded a lot of that stuff.
Yes, he was working with the guy who founded the OSS, who I'm blanking on right now.
Um,
Yes. It was, I mean, it was, at least in part though, modeled after Galen's network, I think. And I think that's why we had such the CIA out the jump. Well, partly it was because of the OSS. This guy brought in a bunch of uh, monarchs and monarchs' kids. They were all like rich kids, spies, kids of spies, and kids of like politicians who were in that original OSS with all these Nazi back channels. So the network was almost already there, and we just took it over and added to it.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised. You know that Dulis's son claimed his dad was a Nazi?
I didn't know. It
Yeah,
doesn't
he did.
surprise me.
He's not a great reliable
Oh,
source, because he had a pretty serious head injury
mhm.
in the Korean War. But he, like, later on in life, said like, my dad's a Nazi, blah blah blah. So I don't know
Mhm.
if it's true or not, but
Well, he certainly worked with them. That's what my research
there's
showed.
no question about it.
No
There's
question.
absolutely no question
Yeah.
about it.
And you were talking about something with JFK. And too, I think like what we're talking about here is this is the world that JFK stepped into as president. This is
Right? Yeah.
a lot of what he had to deal with was this CIA milieu. Um, and we were talking about, what was JFK really getting his hands on behind the scenes as far as intel goes? And I thought about something, if we talk going back to this movie, going back to JFK's friendship with Sinatra, and there was a lady named Judith Exner who was like a liaison between she knew Sinatra.
Giancana.
She knew, yes,
Giancana.
she knew Sinatra, she knew JFK, and JFK was using her as a liaison to go between him and the mob, and they were just passing notes back and forth, like envelopes with stuff in them back and forth. It was, yeah, Giancana, the Chicago mob boss, right? And she said that she looked in one of the envelopes and it contained blueprints for a spacecraft. So this quickly gets bizarre, right? This gets like then you find out that the sons of the head of security for General Dynamics break into this Judith Exner's house a few days surrounding the Marilyn Monroe killing, and then General Dynamics gets a contract to build Pine Gap, which is like Australia's like UFO base, essentially. I try to remember like Roswell sort of a thing. And it's like, so now this gets bizarre real quick when you add in like this aerospace or secret space component. It's like, why was JFK? I mean, I think JFK and Giancana were passing all sorts of intel back and forth, but just the fact that there's spacecraft in there, that's wild. That's wild.
Bannister was involved in some UFO sighting in the 50s. Have you ever heard of that?
Right. I've heard
Yeah,
that.
so
Yeah.
so it was either Roswell or something else. I can't remember.
They said that he lived right outside of Roswell. He lived in New Mexico, not far from Roswell, when the Roswell 1947 crash occurred, and he was put in charge of some sort of UFO investigation for the FBI.
I
So,
mean, it's amazing. There are amazing characters around this. That's the other element of the JFK assassination that I think just like people marvel at. It's like Bannister's really interesting, Ferry's really interesting, Shaw's super interesting, Oswald. Like they're surrounding this really important event. All these characters are just like their connections and they're pregnant with meaning or something. But like
mm,
Bannister is like really strange. Like he's a member of the Court of Jesters, and like I think he's a Mason too. I forgot. Like he's just like all these crazy stuff before 63. Like he's a retired FBI agent. But
it's a ton of
one
connections.
one of the things about Bannister, he was a character witness for David Ferry. So this is like connecting them together. He's a character witness for David Ferry and David Ferry's morality kind of civil suit against Eastern for, I think they either fired him or there was something. They commenced some proceeding because he was gay.
Mm,
And Bannister is a character witness for this guy. So he's supposedly like a conservative FBI
yeah.
kind of guy, but what's he doing with this dude who's like always with teen boys? Like he seems to always be around teen boys.
Well, that was Hoover as well, right? Hoover's over the FBI, and they said he had a gay partnership
Tolson, like I think one of his second in commands was his gay
lover, or
boyfriend,
whatnot.
lover, or
Yeah.
whatever was Clyde Tolson. I think
Mhm.
that's apparently what Roy Cohn had on him
Mm.
is that Cohn was gay and he knew these guys would go dress in women's clothes and do all kinds of kinky stuff. And I think that that's apparently what the mob knew. And that's why Hoover said there's no such thing as a mafia, right?
Mhm.
Like it doesn't exist. Much like, you know, Cash Patel says there's no such thing as that. Where's the Epstein victims? There's no Epstein victims. I can find them. I can just go get Google on. There's tons of victims.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, this secret, all this stuff, it's secret military
yeah,
funding, aerospace, secret technology, mobsters.
yeah.
It's quite a collection. And like that group of characters with Bannister and Shaw and Oswald and all that, that looks to be like a program that was run by this George Joannides character. Do you know? I'm sure you know who I'm
I know
talking
his name. Yeah, I mean
about.
they're always asking for his stuff, and a lot of
Right.
Jefferson Morley is really like keyed into Joanides as a
Yeah.
central figure, and they're trying to get his FBI files or something like that about that
Hmm.
guy. Apparently, he
He's
was seen at the RFK assassination, or there was a claim like that. Bannister, by the way, was involved in investigating the Maury Island incident,
right.
an alleged UFO sighting crash near Tacoma, Washington in June 1947, predating Roswell by about a month.
Mm-hmm.
Where witnesses claim saucer-shaped objects spewed debris that damaged a boat, killed the dog, and injured a boy. The FBI ultimately deemed it a hoax, with witnesses Fred Krisman and Harold Dahl admitting the story was fabricated.
Yeah, yeah. 1947, big year for this. What we now call the UFO phenomenon. Big year. A lot of you've got Roswell, of course. You've got Kenneth Arnold. Those both in 47, and then you've got this third Maury Island incident. Of course, it's been called a hoax. That's the mainstream narrative. I did look into it at one point years ago, and there's good argument that it wasn't entirely a hoax. I don't know what it was, but something seemed to have happened there, something strange. Um,
Fred
and
Krisman, the guy from the Maury Island incident, was called by Bannister as a character witness. Interesting. So he's
Yeah.
involved in JFK too.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I was thinking too when I was watching this Manchurian Candidate film. It's like if you want to look into history for a real life figure who is like the villain portrayed in Manchurian Candidate, George Joanides is a good candidate for that because, like I said, he seemed to be one of the CIA's guys for orchestrating Oswald's network of guys, the New Orleans guys, and all that. Seemed like he was over the whole project.
I think it was like the JM Wave guys who were involved in the Bay of Pigs thing. They were involved in all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think I think he was there, and I think they all were involved.
Yeah.
They all I mean, it's like who isn't involved? It's like there's 100 people on site on November 22nd, 1963, to facilitate this thing. They all knew it's just a giant conspiracy. It's not like one guy.
Right.
Like Ferry's there the next day, seeing it like some skating rink in Houston, making calls on a payphone, and it's just so many people. George Bush Sr. I wasn't there. I was at a meeting 10 miles away. So like his lie is almost like a joke. It's almost like an inside joke. I wasn't there. I was just staying in Whiteford, which is 10 minutes outside of Dallas. Like it's just like all this stuff. Nixon has weird connections to it. It's just like they're all there. Johnson's on site.
Yeah.
He's in the back.
Yeah.
And apparently, like there's like little details, but one of his long-term friends wasn't JFK, but it was the guy riding in the front with JFK. And there's a rumor, I don't know if it's true, maybe some JFK like scholar can let me know, but it's that he instructed his hitman Mac Wallace to kill like one of his former buddies. Wow. Who was the governor of Texas? It was I forgot his name, the guy in the hat. Yeah. And the magic button hit. But anyway, so it's like just Johnson couldn't help himself.
Yeah, he's an interesting component with all this as well. I mean, it came out later that he had a hitman actually.
Yeah, Mac Wallace. His name is Mac Wallace.
Yeah, that's it.
There were 7 dead people around him before the JFK assassination. He was under a lot of pressure, and a lot of things were coming out about him. So for him to like facilitate it, he was definitely a beneficiary because he didn't get busted. He went clinically insane, almost like Macbeth. And they spent $1 million on psychiatrists to heal him, and it just wouldn't work. Like he was like tormented, like he was Saul or something, or just like
demons.
A demon possessed person. He was kind of a demon. So it's almost like the curse is.
He blackmailed his way into VP. The Kennedy brothers didn't want him. They didn't choose him. It was blackmail. They said that the Kennedy brothers got a call, and that they were somber for like the next 2 hours. And the call was, Johnson's your VP, so just deal with it. They said it just sucked you out of the room for those guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's just just so many crazy stuff about him.
He's got those oil and aerospace connections as well. And then there's another, I don't remember the details on this, but I read this, the guy that Kennedy was on his way to talk to. So he was doing the drive through Houston or Dallas. Was it Dallas? And the day he was shot, he was in Dallas, right?
He was in Dallas, yeah.
Yeah, so he does that. And the next thing on his schedule was to go talk to some guy who's an aerospace guy who probably knew about the UFO stuff as well. So yeah. But
Interesting.
when you look into these suspects, right, the characters, it's almost as if they have a few of these guys ready to go, ready to take the fall. These
There's no
gunmen.
question.
Yeah.
There's no question because the same thing happened in Chicago. And I forgot his name now. I've done a show on it on William Ramsey Investigates, but they had a patsy, it seems like, and he had the same kind of background, military background, lone nut. He was in this thing.
Hmm.
JFK got warned off of Chicago. Somebody said, "Hey, something's happening in Chicago. Don't go there." And so he came up with an excuse where he was sick. And so then he traveled. I think they tried to get him in Miami too, is my understanding. So there was like the agenda was happening. Like it was like the years of the killing JFK were real. Like, and probably is probably one of the more ruthless aspects of JFK is that they were trying to get him so that once they got him in a place where they could commit the act, he is like, there's no way he's coming out of this freaking triangulated kill shot alive. No way.
Yeah, which is why they would have
So,
had multiple gunmen there to make
yeah, they
sure
can.
make
Yeah,
sure the job.
just like Oliver Stone says, nothing could be left to chance, and they're right.
Sure. Yeah. They had multiple Oswalds around. Like there was guys who had passports and stuff saying their name was Lee Harvey Oswald. There was one that famously like walked into a bank and shot the ceiling just so he could be arrested. He
That's
didn't,
not Oswald. His name is Nagel, Nagel.
but
He's an interesting guy in
but
himself.
he
Yeah.
had. They said he had identification that said Lee Harvey Oswald on him,
I
on
didn't
his
know
person.
that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, and I'm not surprised. And I know he knew Oswald too.
Hmm.
There's a really good book called "The Man Who Knew Too Much." It's about him.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and I
good
forget
stuff.
the author. Like so many guys, like it's almost like blowing dust off the past because so many other great researchers and authors have been out there grinding books and putting them out, and they didn't have the technology like we have today. But thank God for all those people, and I tip my hat to all of them because people like me can go back through and read them all. You know, the stuff
Hmm.
about Oswald and the CIA and all the FOIA documents and the man who knew too much about Nagel. And you get that whole kind of triptych, that whole broader view, the wide angle view of what's going on in the world and what led up to why they did it, why they killed JFK and what
Hmm.
happened after.
Yeah, yeah, because we're all living in this world that's been shaped by these events.
These political assassinations. And Charlie Kirk is literally 9 days ago.
Right, exactly. People should really go watch it. Did you have some slides that you wanted to show?
I got to run.
Okay,
I'm at
that's
90
okay.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Until maybe next time.
that's all right. I figured maybe we weren't going to do that, but I just wanted to ask just in case.
I have tons of slides. I've got tons of videos. I got a whole slide thing on Oswald.
Oh,
I
cool.
mean, I've done a lot. I got like 40 hours now about all this stuff. So I got to compile it and put it out.
Yeah, that's great. You got a couple words on Catcher in the Rye and close this thing out?
Yeah, Catcher in the Rye. Where's this book come from? Why is it important? The lead character, Holden Caulfield, has no redeeming values, but it's been read by 65 million people. And then Hinckley and Chapman had an obsession with it for some reason. A lot of mysteries there, and it ties into this whole kind of assassination environment that we've been living with in America, or whatever you want to call it, collective psychic driving, years of lead, whatever, Gladio. But those two guys are really interesting in their own right. So it's
Yeah.
that's it. You can watch my shows. I've done a lot of shows on Catcher in the Rye, Manchurian Candidate, at William Ramsey Investigates. You can go to my Patreon. I have a lot of posts there. It's only $5 a month. You can watch all 5 of my documentaries. And all my books are available on Amazon, or you can get them at my website, William Ramsey Investigates.
Excellent. Thanks. I think you just nailed it all, right? You have anything else you need to point people towards? Okay.
That's it.
All right. Yeah, great conversation, William. I appreciate you
Tim.
coming on.
Yeah, nice talking to you.
You too. As always, break the mold, conquer the realm, and thanks for listening.